Starlink Report.
I want to start this week's Starlink report out with a correction. In the last report, I stated that you have to point your Starlink dish to a certain direction, and that is totally untrue. Elon Musk stated, "It looks like a thin, flat, round UFO on a stick. The Starlink terminal has motors to self-adjust optimal angle to view the sky. Instructions are simply plug in socket, point at sky. These instructions work in either order. No training is required." So in other words, all you have to do is have a clear view of the sky. The dish will take care of itself to point in the direction it needs to. Here's some information about the SpaceX Falcon 9 Starlink that went up on this past week on September 3rd. It had 60 SpaceX Starlink V1 satellites on board, and the destination was low Earth orbit. So after the launch of September 3rd, SpaceX has put more than 700 satellites in orbit, more than the 400 needed to provide initial operational capability, according to Musk, and close to the 800 needed to provide significant operational capabilities. Here is the launch vehicle before the satellites were jettisoned. This summer, SpaceX began early beta testing of the constellation with employees using Starlink to test out the download speeds. Kate Tice, Senior Program Reliability Engineer at SpaceX, also said the latency speeds have been low enough to play the fastest online video games, and our download speed is fast enough to stream multiple HD movies at once and still have bandwidth to spare. It sounds impressive, but it's still not quite the gigabit speeds that SpaceX promised in its original filing with the Federal Communication Commission. SpaceX claims that it has just achieved a big breakthrough with its Starlink satellites that could help with data sharing. During the webcast, Tice noted that SpaceX had successfully tested 2 satellites in orbit that had inter-satellite links, or space lasers. This allows the satellites to transfer hundreds of gigabytes of data between the 2 spacecraft. This technology enables Starlink satellites to transfer data directly to each other in orbit instead of beaming it to the ground and back. You can see how many minutes a day Starlink satellites are overhead at any given location. The stars indicate currently very limited areas where Starlink is available 24/7. SpaceX still has a lot of the map to fill in, and this clearly illustrates why beta testing is currently focused on Washington State. And to bring this map up a little bit closer so you can see it, SpaceX is about to open up public beta testing. Interested users can sign up through the company's Starlink website, providing their email and address to see if they qualify for the program. Beta testing would focus first on rural communities in Washington, expanding to the northern United States and southern Canada. Public beta tests should provide better real-world results than these early beta tests, though users will likely have to sign non-disclosure agreements. SpaceX's Starlink mega constellation is already the largest fleet of satellites in the world, but hundreds more will be launched in the coming months as the company works to fulfill its initial network of 1,440 satellites. To that end, company representatives have said that roughly 6 of the flat panel satellites are built each day at its facilities in Washington State, and they estimate that 60 satellite Starlink missions could launch every 2 to 3 weeks. And this has been
the Starlink Report.
Thanks for joining us.